I was told not to attend my sister's wedding, so I went to Costa Rica instead. When everything went wrong, my family said I cursed the event with my absence. I, 32M, never thought I'd be writing this, but here I am. My sister, 29F, and I used to be close growing up. We had the typical sibling fights, but always had each other's backs when it mattered. That changed when she met her now husband 3 years ago. He never liked me, though I couldn't tell you why. I tried being friendly, invited him to watch games, even helped them move into their first apartment. Nothing worked. As her wedding approached, I noticed I wasn't receiving any updates. No save the date, no invitation, nothing. When I finally asked her about it, she got quiet before saying, "We decided to keep the guest list small." I would have accepted that, except I later found out through our cousin that nearly 200 people were invited, including distant relatives we hadn't seen in years. I confronted her, and that's when she dropped the bomb. "My fiancé doesn't want you there. He says you make him uncomfortable." I was floored. I asked what I'd done wrong, but she just repeated that I knew what I did without giving specifics. When I pressed further, she admitted he was jealous of our sibling relationship and thought I was too protective of her. Apparently, questioning why he came home at 3 a.m. smelling like alcohol and perfume when they first started dating made me the bad guy. After a heated argument where she chose his side completely, I decided to respect her decision. If she didn't want me at her wedding, fine. I had some vacation days saved up, so I booked a trip to Costa Rica for the week of the wedding. I needed the break anyway. I posted a few beach photos on social media, not mentioning the wedding at all. I was just trying to enjoy myself and not think about being excluded from one of the most important days of my sister's life. Then my phone exploded. The wedding had been a complete disaster. The venue had a pipe burst, flooding half the reception area. The caterer mixed up the dates and didn't show until 2 hours after the ceremony. The photographer's camera malfunctioned, losing most of the ceremony photos. And to top it all off, my sister's new mother-in-law got drunk and told several guests that my sister wasn't good enough for her son. Somehow, this all became my fault. My parents called first, saying I should have been there to help manage the crisis. My aunts texted saying my absence had cursed the wedding. Even my grandmother, who I thought was reasonable, said I should have been the bigger person and attended anyway. The most ridiculous call came from my sister herself, sobbing that if I had been there, I would have noticed the leaking pipe earlier. I'm not a plumber. Would have called a backup caterer that I was supposed to magically know, and could have handled her mother-in-law, the woman I've met exactly twice. I'm at a loss. I respected her wishes by not attending, and now I'm somehow responsible for everything that went wrong. The family group chat is divided, with some saying I deliberately sabotaged the wedding by not being there, while others think the whole situation is absurd. Am I crazy for thinking this isn't my fault? I didn't ask to be banned from the wedding, and I certainly didn't cause any of those problems. Update 1. It's been 2 weeks since the wedding fiasco, and things have only gotten more complicated. After my last post, I decided to reach out to my sister directly. I thought maybe if we talked one-on-one, we could clear the air. Bad idea. She agreed to meet for coffee, and I hoped we could have a calm, rational conversation. Instead, she brought her husband, who spent the entire time glaring at me. She started by saying she was willing to forgive me for abandoning her on her wedding day. When I reminded her that she explicitly told me not to come, she said I should have known she didn't really mean it. "You're my brother," she said. "You should have fought harder to be there." Her husband then chimed in, saying I'd always been a negative influence, and that my bad energy probably caused the pipe to burst. I wish I was making this up. When I asked for specific examples of how I'd been negative, he mentioned the time I questioned him coming home late smelling like perfume. Apparently, he was at a work event where his female colleague hugged him goodbye. He said my accusations showed I never trusted him. I pointed out that I never actually accused him of anything. I just asked a question any concerned brother would ask. This led to him standing up and saying I was doing it again, trying to come between them. My sister then dropped another bombshell. They're considering moving across the country to get away from toxic family dynamics. When I asked if I was the toxic dynamic she was referring to, she didn't deny it. I left feeling worse than before. On my drive home, I got texts from my parents saying I should apologize to keep the peace. They're worried about my sister moving away and blame me for pushing her to this decision. I'm starting to question my own sanity. Am I really the villain in this story? Update 2. A month has passed, and an unexpected ally has emerged. My sister's maid of honor, 28F, who happens to be her best friend since high school. She reached out to me privately, saying she couldn't stand watching the family blame me for everything. She revealed that in the weeks leading up to the wedding, my sister had been having serious doubts about marrying her fiancé. Apparently, she caught him texting an ex multiple times, but convinced herself it was innocent. The maid of honor also confirmed my suspicions about him isolating my sister from people who question him. She said he's been slowly cutting my sister off from friends who don't approve of him. I was just the first family member to go. The wedding disasters were real, but what my family doesn't know is that the groom was missing for nearly an hour before the ceremony. The best man found him in his car, on the phone with someone, looking upset. When confronted, he claimed it was a work emergency. This information puts everything in a new light, but I'm not sure what to do with it. If I tell my family, they'll think I'm making things up to shift blame. If I confront my sister, she'll just retreat further into her defensive position. Meanwhile, they're still planning their move across the country. My parents are devastated but continue to suggest that if I had just been supportive from the beginning, none of this would be happening. I feel stuck in an impossible situation. I want to help my sister, but how can I when she sees me as the enemy? Update 3. 6 months later, and everything has changed. My sister and her husband moved across the country as planned. My parents were heartbroken but blamed me less as time passed. Then, 3 months after they moved, I got a call in the middle of the night. It was my sister, crying so hard I could barely understand her. She and her husband had a massive fight, and she discovered he'd been having an affair with his work colleague, the same woman whose perfume I'd smelled on him years ago. Apparently, it had been ongoing the entire time. She was calling from a hotel, afraid to go back to their apartment. I immediately booked her a flight home and arranged for our parents to pick her up from the airport. When she arrived, the full story came out. Her husband had been manipulating and isolating her for years. The move across the country was his idea to get her away from anyone who might interfere. Once they were alone, his controlling behavior escalated. The wedding disasters? He'd invited his ex to the ceremony, the one he was texting, which is why he disappeared before the wedding. The photographer later admitted he'd been asked by the groom to accidentally delete certain photos, ones that might have shown the ex in the background. My sister broke down when she realized how he'd turned her against me. "You were right about him all along," she said, "and I chose him over you." It's been a difficult road to reconciliation. There were tears, accusations, and painful conversations. My parents finally acknowledged that they should have seen the red flags instead of pressuring me to keep the peace. My sister filed for divorce and is staying with our parents while she rebuilds her life. Yesterday, she asked if we could start having our old weekly sibling dinners again. It was the first time I'd seen her genuinely smile in years. As for her soon-to-be ex-husband, he's been telling mutual friends that I poisoned my sister against him. Some believe him, but most have seen his true colors by now. I never wanted to be right about him. I would have given anything to be wrong. But I'm grateful that my sister found her way back, both to herself and to our family. The wedding may have been a disaster, but sometimes it takes a catastrophe to reveal the truth. And while I didn't cause the pipe to burst or the caterer to be late, I like to think that somewhere in the universe, karma was working in mysterious ways that day. Family relationships are complicated, messy, and sometimes painful, but they're also worth fighting for, even when you're the one being blamed for a wedding day disaster you weren't invited to attend.